So, Danny, thank you firstly for joining me. As I mentioned to you the other day, at the moment, obviously, we're all kind of dealing with the COVID-19 situation. And this year, the Grenada Chocolate Festival hasn't been able to take place actually, so it's taking place virtually. And one
Oh,
of the things that I wanted to do is my contribution to the festival, because ordinarily people would have come to my farm or would have come
mhm,
to my chocolate factory. But what I'm actually using this opportunity to do is to reach out to individuals that I have observed, connected with, done some work with, or asked questions about how to temper chocolate or whatever I may have done over the years, and to get them involved in kind of a virtual chocolate festival that we're doing as part of the Grenada Chocolate Festival. So I can't remember how I came across you guys. I think it may have been my friend Nick in Jamaica,
mhm.
who's a chocolate maker for a company called One Cacao.
Well, mhm,
And either that or just generally being on Instagram and so forth. But you kind of
mhm,
mentioned, I think you mentioned you guys to me, and I checked
mhm.
you guys out and saw what you were doing, and I thought it was great to see three brothers making chocolate. So
Wonderful, thank you.
I
Mhm.
guess given that, do you want to just kind of let me know a little bit more about yourselves, the company,
Sure, sure,
your story so far?
sure. So, my brothers and I, we founded Sol Cacao. It's the Bronx first bean to bar chocolate company. What that means is we take unroasted cacao beans from various countries. The only other ingredient we add is organic cane sugar, and we make single origin chocolate bars. So only two ingredients chocolates. Inspiration for the company stemmed from my great grandparents. Um, they um, they were actually from Grenada, and my great grandfather was from Venezuela, but they both met in Trinidad. They worked on a cocoa estate in Trinidad, and it was those early stories about how they worked on the farm that interest my brothers and I, especially around our teenage years, because at the time my parents would bring up cocoa tea and all of these different Caribbean spices, and basically that's what we grew up on. So when we started eating that, we started asking, hey, why isn't this here in America? Long and behold, many years later, we started revisiting those stories, and that's when we realized that Trinidad has a very lengthy, not even Trinidad, but all of the Caribbean and Latin America has a very lengthy history of cocoa production.
Yeah.
Trinidad being, one of those premier countries, obviously because of the Trinitario and the Cocoa Research Unit, um, for those contributions. So when we did our research, we were in college at the time, but I think by the time I was like my second year of college, I knew I was gonna work with chocolate for the rest of my life. Um, I'm a little bit older now, but that was, roughly like 8 years ago. But 8 years ago was when I decided chocolate is my future. We launched Sol Cacao, SOL, Cacao, in the Bronx. Um, Inspiration for the company was just shining light on cacao, telling the many stories behind cacao, such as the flavor, the farmer, the origins, and really telling those stories through chocolate. So that's how we came up with the business name, and that's our mission statement. Really, it's to educate and inspire anyone who's interested and willing to hear about what chocolate has done for not only the world but what it can do for the future. So yeah, we're chocolate enthusiasts, and not only me, but my two brothers as well. So that's a good plus.
Oh, okay. So how did so just tell me, when did you actually officially launch the company?
So we launched the company, I would say, officially in 2017.
Okay.
2016 was when we made our first bar. So I would say from 2013 to 2016, we were just reading as many books as we can, really watching as many videos on YouTube. I mean, to the point where there was nothing else. I mean, there was nothing else to read. And then finally, we got to the point where we just said, it's time to just do it, right?
Yeah.
And that came with some financial investments. We were working, so we, even till today, we use all of our personal monies, to reinvest in the company, to grow the company, and that's how we began. And it's something we still do today, but just on a larger scale.
Yeah.
So So yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
and then so tell me about the flavors that you make. So I know you make a Trinidad bar, obviously,
Yes, yes.
but tell me about the general flavors and the origins that you work with.
Sure. So what we wanted to kind of curate was a range of flavors, right? We wanted to show people that chocolate could be fruity, taste like berries, cherries, or wines. We also wanted to kind of highlight something unusual. So like a Criollo, for example, it tends not to have traditional chocolatey flavors that people grew up on. It tends to be very subtle yet complex. So that's what we wanted in the chocolate, and we found that in Peru. And then last but not least, we have an Ecuadorian bar, and Ecuador is known for having very savory, nutty, earthy notes. So for people who enjoyed like almonds and walnuts, or who might have peanut allergies, they could still get those kind of flavors with. So that's what we did. We wanted very, very fruity, something you could identify right away, something in the middle, which is a balance of the two, and then last but not least, something very earthy and nutty, where if that's the flavor you wanted, that's what you could get. But now, we're actually thinking about experimenting with new flavors now. So we have a coconut bar we're working on, which we're very excited about, and also chocolate truffles.
So
So
is that coconut sugar or is that actual
no,
coconut?
no, no, actual coconut powder,
Oh, nice. Okay.
coconut milk powder. So it's the it's
Yeah.
coconut powder.
Mhm.
And that's what we're excited to bring. We're a vegan company. My brothers and I were vegetarians, so that's why we only use two ingredients, because it's two things we're trying to do. We're trying to really teach people what a good chocolate bar tastes like. So all of our offerings is 70% and above, um, and 70% for us is really that marker for where dark starts for us. And then eventually, we want to be able to introduce more flavors to those bars. So after we build that framework of what a good chocolate should taste like, then we could go off the wall and do whatever we want. So
Cool.
yeah,
Okay,
those are the flavors.
that makes sense because I haven't actually tasted the chocolate yet. Just
We gotta
because
get you some,
yeah,
yes.
well, yeah, I have some family in Queens, Jamaica Ave. So
Yes,
hopefully,
yes,
when obviously there's a large contingent of Grenadians based in New York,
yeah, yes,
so it's not too hard to get it. So hopefully, I can get my hands on it pretty soon,
yes,
and give it a taste. So I guess one of the things as well that stood out to me with yourselves was, I guess, the packaging that you guys have.
yes,
So everyone in chocolate, everyone obviously distinguishes themselves not just from their flavors of their chocolate, but
mhm,
their style of making chocolate and the
yeah,
flavors they might choose to put in. But I guess the
yeah,
biggest marker is the packaging. So
mhm,
I know from my perspective, it was a long, hard road to go down to design the packaging that I did because it was trying
yes,
to represent Grenada,
mhm,
represent, I guess, the all of the elements of what makes up the country. Then it's also
absolutely,
representing the country and representing I guess, the high quality nature of the
I
chocolate
bet,
we produce.
absolutely,
And
absolutely,
then also making sure that when you look at a shelf of
mhm,
chocolate, it stands out.
yeah.
So those were kind of, I guess, the three pillars that I had to go through. But in terms of your packaging, do you want to just tell me a little bit about how you went? I guess the journey
Well,
might have been a hard one or an easy one, depending on if one of your brothers is a graphic designer or not. But in terms of the actual process, like how was it for
yeah.
you and
Yeah,
more behind it?
we, as I said, it was around 2013 to 2016 was when we read every article, and around this time, we were just really inspired by experiences, um, affordable luxuries. Like this idea of an experience begin, from the moment you touch the packaging. So with that in mind, we really looked at every layer of the packaging down to what are we showing. So on each of one of our bar, one thing you'll notice is it's three of everything.
Okay.
So there's three birds, three baobab tree for the Madagascar, and
Hmm.
basically that's the three of us. So it was like a play on my brothers and I. And last but not least, each one of those images represents something that's native to that country. So
Gotcha.
Madagascar, we went with the baobab. For the Peruvian bird. I'm not going to say the name, but it's the national bird of Peru,
Sure.
and same with Ecuador. So basically, the goal was, to highlight each thing from that country. And on the Trinidad packaging, we have the hummingbird. So all of our packaging really pays homage to some sort of whether it's fauna or just animal species. That's what we try to highlight. And so if people say, "Oh, Madagascar," they could look it up. They could see that thing, learn about Madagascar. So hopefully, we spark that interest.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
Okay. Have you had a
Yeah.
chance to visit any of the countries where the origin
No,
beans come from yet?
other than Trinidad, but I
Mhm.
got invited to Ecuador this year, but
Uh,
that's not happening. I don't think anytime
yeah.
soon. But no, but this is actually the first year where we're in a position where we could travel more freely and so on. So this was the year we were really planning on meeting wonderful people like you who's on the field, working with cacao, because that will just inspire us even more on what we're doing as a bean to bar chocolate maker. How can we, like, hey, like, this farmer's fermenting it this way. This is why we're getting more flavors, and we could ask these questions and know about the quality of the beans before it arrives at the factory. Because once it's there, I mean,
Yeah.
that's all you got.
Yeah,
So
yeah, no, definitely.
it's
It's
so
funny.
important.
It's funny you mention that because I find some. I don't normally do these kind of chats with people. I'm just doing it fundamentally um, as part of the chocolate festival this year. But I mean, in terms of chocolate makers and them being in origin or being to origin and understanding about the different flavors and the nuances of the beans which they've got. Um, it's hard to say how many people I've spoken to have actually been to
Yeah,
the countries, but I think
yeah,
more people are because
yeah,
as
absolutely.
more and more chocolate makers are coming onto the market,
Yeah,
and the investment they're putting into these beans, and as you
yeah,
just rightly said,
hmm,
investing in these beans and receiving them, and then them
yeah,
not being what you envisaged they were going to be, is
exactly.
quite a hefty investment
Absolutely.
or loss
Mhm.
to take.
Yeah.
So
Oh, a loss. Yeah, and it affects brand reputation, marketing, because once you have a bad bar, it's a bad bar. The taste tells it. So,
that's it.
chocolate is one of those things where the supply chain is very important to us, and as we said before, this is the year that we plan on meeting those farmers and figuring out ways to strengthen those relationships. For
Yeah.
both, because if we continue to make better, high quality chocolate where people are interested in, it just allows us to give the farmer more and continue to mark up, or rightfully so, the high quality product they're making. You know what I mean? Or
Gotcha.
even growing. So yeah.
And then tell me, I know each and every one of your brothers, you do something different, but what was your background before you got into chocolate?
I'm an engineer.
Okay.
I studied electrical engineering. But once again, animal planet science. So I was always a science guy. Math and science were my strong suits.
Okay.
And I did engineering because I was really interested in like sustainable solar energy, power generation. I would say that was my interest, and I had I still have this dream of having a solar powered house, or
Okay.
helping the Caribbean become more sustainable. So that's what kind of gave me the courage to pursue such a tough major and
Gotcha.
battle through it. Nicholas, my middle brother, he's a nurse, so he's a psych nurse, so he works in psychology. He helps patients get back on their feet or stabilize, right? And then Dominic, he's a cybersecurity analyst, so he works with a lot of data and yeah, data migration, stuff like that, or just protecting people's information. So we all comes from three different things, but the one thing we have in common is we're all science people, um, and uh, and you know ultimately that's what drew us to chocolate. It was a science project. It's something that chocolate has so many layers. There's so many, it's malleable, so you could turn it into pretty much anything as long as you have the temperature under control. So just that creative aspect of working with chocolate, that's our creative outlet, despite having such technical jobs where it's tough all the time. That's our opportunity to kind of express ourselves and do what we love rather than to work for money. So
Gotcha. Gotcha.
yeah.
So I get, so you're, so am I right in saying you're the kind of more day to day brother in the whole?
Oh no, not really. It's actually my,
Okay.
my oldest brother. But
Oh, okay.
now, now with coronavirus, working from home, I have more time to be in the factory more and
Gotcha.
see what's going on. So very fortunate. Very fortunate for this time to just kind of reflect and figure out, hey, what else can I be doing for the business? So very interesting time. I wouldn't have had this time to be able to think. So I'm very humbled by everything and very thankful for what we have and what we can do. I think going through this for any business, you kind of question, why did I get into this if it was going to be this hard, and I know people are asking themselves that question. But I will say that the one thing that we've gotten out of this is, we're on a mission. Um, we're on a mission to basically create the next Bronx, landmark. We're trying to make the Bronx a destination where people could learn. And I'm not sure if you know a little bit. Sorry, I'm segueing real quick, but just to like touch on the Bronx. The Bronx is home to one of the poorest zip code in America. The poorest, to be in one of the wealthiest cities, and and to have the poorest, that doesn't make any sense. So it's very important for us to employ local community, any local employee, because at the end of the day, we'll be giving them skills where if they choose to go on and start a chocolate company, you know what I mean, to be self-sustained, we want to be able to give them those tools. So really our mission is to inspire and educate the next generation of Bronx chocolate makers and share that with the world. Um, as Trinidadians and more importantly, as we continue to grow as a business, is to tie that back to our upbringing, and really tell that story of like chocolate is really a canvas where you can just kind of express yourself and your experiences based on the flavors that you've eaten, and we want to be able to use our Caribbean upbringing to showcase that in our chocolate creation. So yeah, I mean, this is like I'm it's more than a dream, It's really like it's when they say chocolate finds you, it really found us, like if it wasn't for my great grandparents doing what they did, there's no way I would have been thinking this, So I'm just so thankful. It's almost like we're kind of finishing what they, not even finishing, but we're continuing on what they started and taking it up a next generational level. So it's very humbling, and it's very humbling. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. No, no, I totally resonate
yeah.
with a lot of that. I think, a
Hmm.
lot of stuff you've said, even just from the threes that you mentioned earlier, with my
Hmm.
company called Tri Island Chocolate and Grenada
Hmm.
being a Tri Island state,
Hmm.
down to my grandparents passing the land to me and my brother, and me
Absolutely.
taking the baton on to, like you just said, kind of elevate what they started to another level. So
Yeah,
we are
absolutely.
very, very similar in that regard too.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, so tell me about a little bit about I guess the chocolate community within New York, because I only
Hmm.
really know about Raka. That's the one
Yeah,
chocolate company that's come up
yeah,
a few times, and then obviously
yeah.
yourselves. But
Mhm.
how many are there in
Yeah,
New
so
York?
so there's not really too many makers. I mean, there hasn't been in I would say the last almost 4 to 5 years. I don't think there's been another chocolate company since we've came out. So actually, there's one after us. There is Dalloway, like Dalla Way. There is also Mass Brothers, but Mass Brothers actually left Brooklyn. They're now in I know they're upstate New York, and Fruition is upstate New York. But other than Raka, it's Fine and Raw, and Dalloway. So it's only like three people right now in the city, and then it's us. But very small community, very separate. I mean, chocolate is one of those things where you're working, or yeah, it's kind of like heads down work unless you're really doing a demo or giving a tour. But it's a very small community here. But because it's a tough industry, it's a lot of competition. Um, it's tough. So I could understand that. But at the end of the day, I think it's going to grow in the future. I think as especially with what's going on now with COVID, I think people I could see more pastry chefs, for example, potentially being interested. But I don't think it will be so much bean to bar chocolate. I think it might be something more like I have a pastry shop and I make chocolate in it. I don't think it's going to become like a factory manufacturing like that kind of production will be more specialized. I think that's the future of bean to bar. If you want me to, it's more, it's like, hey, I make good chocolate, and these are everyday products you could try, and I'm sure it's going to blow your mind. So I think that's where it's going to go.
Yeah, no,
Um,
I think that makes sense. I think there's a lot of
mhm,
diversification that needs to take place in
absolutely.
what we do. I think from,
Yep.
like you said, getting pastry chefs to getting restaurant owners, and chefs in general, to start
Yeah.
using better quality, fine flavored
Chocolate.
chocolate
Absolutely.
against what they're used to using.
Absolutely. So
Even
that
to
that has to happen on top of just I think chocolatiers, pastry chefs, people who are very intimate with chocolate, but haven't done the homework to really learn it. I think those people will definitely get interested in the future, and
yeah, in
I
this,
feel
and it's
uh,
coming. I think
it's
everyone talks
covered.
about the growth of
Mhm.
wines and the growth of
Yes,
coffee and so forth, and how
absolutely.
chocolate unfortunately is lagging behind. But
Yeah, they
you
said
know,
10 years, 10 years behind
yeah,
coffee. So, hmm.
so it's all a matter of time, I guess, to a certain degree. So why did he just choose two ingredients? I find that quite interesting because
Uh,
I could
oh,
never do that.
so we just wanted to just like this is what that cacao tastes like. So we
Okay.
went extremely minimalist and cane sugar for minimal flavoring.
Yep.
So really we just did two ingredients because we just wanted a very minimal. This is how chocolate's supposed to taste like. That's it. So
Pure.
we went pure that route. Um, and everyone who eats our chocolate, they have that like moment where I've never had chocolate that tastes like this. So that's what we wanted to do, kind of really introduce people to origin chocolate. So whenever they go for like a dinner party and they might have like this kind of cheese or like a wine, then they'd be like, hey, I know my friend really like fruity things, so let me get that Madagascar. I'll pair it with this thing cheese. And so that's how we kind of thought about it, like a blank canvas where if they like the chocolate they could bring it home and do whatever they want with it rather than flavoring it, where it is what it is, you know what I mean? So that's why we kind of started off with two ingredients, was to really understand the chocolate and then build from that base. So
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
mhm.
And then tell me like a little bit about, I guess, the vision and the overall plan moving forward. Because I know you guys have got yourselves into Whole Foods, I believe,
Yeah.
in New York, which I guess
Yes.
everyone keeps mentioning that to you, which is
Mhm.
obviously a lot of pressure, but also
Yeah,
a
it
good
is. It
thing.
is. Yeah, yeah. But
So
I think future plans is continue to get the word out there. Who we are as a Bronx company, as a family-owned company, as one of the few black-owned chocolate companies in America. So it's that's what we got to do right now because a lot of people don't really know who we are. And I feel like for a lot of people, once they find out who we are, I know we could inspire, ultimately our mission statement, which is to inspire the next generation of chocolate makers, because it is an opportunity here, where, maybe academics isn't really for me, but you could still be a chocolatier, you could still be a chocolate maker and still make a living. And, we grew up on a farm, no shoes on, you know what I mean? Literally running around in the countryside, and I know what it is to be hungry, and to and I could understand that hopelessness of not really thinking you don't have a lot of options. So future vision is really spreading the word and showing a different perspective on how you can make a living. By teaching business classes, teaching the community about chocolate, teaching the community how to make chocolate. So really, first and foremost, we need to, solidify our community here in the Bronx and letting people know, hey, we have an institution where you can learn how to make chocolate. So I think that's our short-term plan. I think a long-term plan, it's, make it back home, make it back to Trinidad, and really, work with the farmers down there, really learn from them, really, carry on the heritage that they're started, and once again, go to continue on with what my great grandparents started. So I think returning to Trinidad, that long-term goal, I think that's going to be a huge milestone for us, because that was one of the reasons we started it. It was the opportunity to travel back and forth, you know what I mean, to be creative, but also to pay homage to where we're from, and more importantly, bring that from Trinidad up here in America, so other people could experience that. So so I think that's a long-term plan. It's really showing the world who we are, where we're from. You know what I mean? What our life experience, really tell that through chocolate, and tell it in the Bronx, tell it through the Bronx. So yeah. So that's kind of short-term, long-term plan.
Yeah, no, well, look, I'm excited to see where you guys are gonna end up, because I like the story. Like, for me, it's very much about, like anything, me being first and foremost, coming from a marketing background, it's always been about the story.
Yes.
In every brand that I kind of connect with, and my own brand as well. So that's
Hmm.
always fundamental. And I think the fact that you guys have a great story, and your goal, and where you guys want to be, and the ambitions are great, particularly what you want to do for your, I guess, your new home in
Hmm.
Bronx.
Hmm.
It kind of makes sense, and
Hmm.
it's going to be an exciting journey to see you guys
Hmm.
go along. So I look forward to it. I look forward
Yes,
to it.
yes, yes. We gotta link up, man. If I'm ever in
Yeah,
Grenada, we hit.
definitely. Well, like I said, thank you for your time. Like I said, I know you've probably been busy. It's been a long day, but thank you for your time, and hopefully we'll get to chat again and catch up with your brothers as well, and hopefully get to see you in Grenada when it's available for people to fly in. So, or connect up in Trinidad, either way. So yeah, just want to say thanks again.